Hey advisors, have you ever been in a situation where you have faced objections around policy exclusion? So for example, you submitted a life plan or a shield plan, and then what happens is that at the end of the day, you get a substandard offer, and then your prospect gets upset, angry at you, and then after that, say that, what, I don't want coverage at all, I don't want to buy, I think it's unfair, etc, etc. Now, if you have ever been in situations like this, then this video is for you. Okay, so hi, my name is Benjamin Ong and I'm founder of Authentic Advisory Systems, previously known as OXYC. We did some form of rebranding to reflect the things that we're doing more accurately and more congruently as well. Okay, so again, I created this channel because there's a lot of advisors out there that are either, broke or have a lot of money but unhappy, right? So I hope that some of the lessons that I've learned and documenting this entire process and journey would be able to help you to make more money, to be happy, to be purposeful and authentic. Okay, context, right? So in the past, this was based on my experience last time. So in the past, I had probably like about three incidents, right, where I submitted a shield plan, a life plan, and whatnot, right? And then what happens is that it came back with a substandard offer, and then I'll fight for the case, I'll appeal, etc., because like we are the first line of defense. Now, sometimes it goes through, sometimes it doesn't. Now, the tricky part is that sometimes these prospects or some of my prospects are unable to accept the exclusions, and then they get even like angry and upset, right? And then sometimes they'll be like, hey, you know what? I get excluded from certain conditions, meaning say I'm not covered for these conditions, but yet I still have to pay the same original amount, or yet I still have to pay more, right? Because sometimes there's tolling, right? So they feel it's unfair, and then what happens is that, which is not the best, but like sometimes they don't even buy the policy at all just because they feel that it's unfair. Now, I mean, that's valid, right? Anybody would probably feel this way. And what I realized is that the reason why they feel this way is because they can't get over the fact that maybe, firstly, their health is not what they thought it would be, right? That you get excluded and whatnot, right? And then secondly is because every time you get a substandard offer or you get postponed and whatnot, right? It is the underlying emotion here is that it's kind of fear of rejection, right? Or they feel embarrassed because they got rejected, which is funny, right? Because usually the prospects, generally speaking, are the ones that rejects insurance and insurance companies and advisors, right? That's why they have all these stereotype, stigma kind of stuff. And then now they are the ones getting rejected in that sense, right? So they feel upset and feel it's unfair, right? And then obviously the third one is just feel unjustified that they have to pay the same amount of money even though they get covered lesser, right? So obviously to us, or at least to me, I think we can empathize, and I think the decision might not really make sense, especially if, for example, there's one of the best offers out there in terms of like for their conditions, to be exact, right? And then they still choose not to buy anything at all, which is funny because to us it's like more coverage, as in have some form of coverage better than no coverage, right? And this is where I'm going to share with you this is what I call like the ABC exclusion method, right? On how to really overcome this kind of exclusions, okay? So just a disclaimer, please only use this when you sincerely feel that whatever that you propose to them is the best for them at this point in time, okay? So the first step here is very simple, right? So what happens is that, when you first break the news to them, they'll feel upset, right? They'll feel angry, they'll feel like frustrated, like more often than not. I mean, if they don't, then I think it's great, right? Then there's no issues and they just move forward with it, right? Now, obviously, if they feel upset, frustrated, then the first step is to, let me just draw this out. The first step is to address their underlying emotion, right? So because obviously they might feel unjustified, they feel upset, etc., right? You don't want to just handle the objection and then like straight go in and tell them, okay, you know what, but this still makes sense, you should buy, blah, 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 right? Usually it won't turn out the best, at least from my experience. So what I found very useful is that, first of all, I'll ask them about how they feel, right? So you'll be like, hey, hey, Cindy, can I ask you a question? And say, how, after I said this, right, how do you feel? Do you feel unfair? Do you feel frustrated? Or like, how do you feel about this entire situation? Right? So that's the first question. Now, most of the time, if they are okay, it's fine, right? You can move on. If they feel upset, frustrated, whatnot, then the second question then I'll address, right? And I'll say, hey, I understand. Usually it happens. It might seem unfair, etc. But would it be okay with you if we work through this situation together? Would it be okay with you if we process through logically, how to get over this situation together? right? So the reason why I asked this question, and so obviously address underlying emotion, because you want to feel like, you want to make yourself feel like you really care for them, which you should lah, right? Second one is because the second question, right, is like, would it be okay if you work through this situation together? Is to make them feel like you're on their side. Because sometimes when people get rejected from insurance companies, they're unhappy at the insurance company, at your company, but they're also equally unhappy at you. They just kind of like bundle you up together with your company. Okay, so you want to make them feel like you're on their side, right? Hence the second question: would it be okay with you if you work through this situation together? Okay, so that's basically the two questions, right? Under the first point, right? Now the second step is visualize situation. So what happens is that every time someone gets a news or get emotional about things, they're unable to objectively assess the situation and therefore make the best decisions for themselves, right? And what more often than not is that every time they get emotionally affected, they will usually focus on the bad things, right? They usually focus on the worst case situation. It's really hard for them to see the good. Okay, so how to deal with this is to help them visualize the situations right now, so they have a better idea and they can see clearly for themselves which situation is the best for them. Okay, so let's take for example, we are selling one of the incidents. What I did was like I was selling a hospitalization plan, and then obviously you get exclusion for some respiratory stuff, right? So that's the context. Okay, then I would say that, hey, you know what? The first situation, I'll just use a different color. So I just say the first situation. So there are three situations, right? Mr. Prospect, right? There are three situations. The first one is, let's assume that, let me draw a scale, right? So there's 0 to 100, right? 100 basically mean, let's say it's 100% coverage, like you get 100% covered by the policy and it accepts all your conditions, etc., etc. And 0 means that you have no coverage at all. Okay, so situation A, it's basically you have no coverage at all, right? You have no coverage at all, 0 coverage, right? And then guess what? The premiums that you pay is 0 per year. Make sense? Right, 0 per year, right? Because no coverage, 0 per year. That's basically the first situation. The second situation is, okay, same thing, 0 to 100, right? And then let me just draw this thing here, right? This yellow color, right? You are fully covered. Okay, so let me just put fully covered. Okay, so it's a cover 100%. So there's no substandard offer. You just accepted fully. They cover all your conditions, right? And this, let's say right now, if this plan goes through, is $600 a year. Okay, now C, right? Situation C, it's again the same 100, 0. Now the difference here is you get covered to a certain extent, and then over here. Okay, so this one is you pay $600 a year. Okay, so these are three situations now, right? So let me run through the situation together. So the first situation is where you are at, right? Before you met me, you had no coverage, and yet at the good news. So that's the bad news, right? The good news, hey, you're not paying anything. But that's also the reason, that's also the place where you do not want to be, right? That's the reason why we even went ahead with the application, we even submit everything else, right? So situation A is out, right? So that's where you are at, and this is something that you and I do not want to be at, right? Make sense? Okay, then the person say, makes sense? Yeah, of course, right? So situation A is out. Now, situation B, ideally, right? This is, situation is the ideal one where we hope that, we get fully accepted, we get fully covered for all the things that we are supposed to be covered for, right? And therefore, it solves the situation A, right? So that's where situation B, and that's where the ideal situation is. Now, the challenge here, or the only thing different right now, is that instead of getting situation B, we get situation C. Yeah, we get situation C, right? So situation C covers, let's say, about 70%, and then, the remaining 30% they don't cover, etc., etc., right? So think about it, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, right? Situation A is the reason why you're here in the first place, because we don't want to be in a situation where you got no coverage. Situation B is something that we ideally want to have, and we expect to have it. However, the current situation right now is situation C, right? So let me ask you a question, okay? Because B is out of the question right now because we can't have it, and I will, and I already fight for you a lot already. So now the question is, do you want to be in situation A or in situation C? Which one do you want? Situation A or situation C? Which one is better? Of course, situation C, right? Exactly. So as much as I really empathize and I understand, that it might not get covered fully, but, in my line of work, we firmly believe that at least having, let's say, for example, 70% coverage is better than having none. C is always better than A, right? In like most cases. Okay, so pause. So basically it's kind of like how you want to run through, right? Because when you run through A, B, and C, they can clearly see that like, hey, you know what? This is the three situations. They don't want to be in A and they want B, but they only dealt with C. And then they only have two choices, right? They either do with A, which is no coverage, or they take C, right? And then even if you look at it, this drawing, objectively speaking, C just makes a lot more sense, right? So this is one of the visualization that I usually do, right? So after that, step 3, right? Okay, so step 3, they'll be like, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead with C, and then this is reassure. So the third step is reassure and close. So it's very important to reassure them, purely because like sometimes people make decision without 100% conviction. Or maybe they make the decision and then they feel a bit of remorse or buyer's remorse, etc., right? So basically, you do C, and then I'll say things like, hey, exactly, perfect, we'll go ahead with C, and that being said, this is the reason why my line of work is extremely important, because there's always factors that interferes with the application beyond the ability to pay, right? And I also want to assure you that I have fought, appealed, and find out the best solution with you in the market. Okay, so this basically like how the reassurance goes, and then you empathize with them, etc., right? So in short, this is literally the 3-step, the ABC method, right? And step B is the most important. Step A is really the most important one on really stabilizing their mood, their state, emotions, and then B, visualizing it out for them. Okay, I think you can really do this for like life plans as well, not only on shoe plans, right? So both of it could be done as well, right? Basically, that being said, right? Obviously, sometimes there are times, or there might potentially be times where the prospect say like, I want to compare with other insurers, I want to apply to other people, and etc., right? Now, if they say this, of course you can fight for it and say that yours is still the best, whatnot, etc. But if you want to, which I would encourage as well, is to really just apply to other companies, right? Get a friend of yours in other companies, ask them to apply, and then see how it goes, right? Because at the end of the day, we do what's best for our clients, right? And we really put their interests first. Okay. That being said, use this. That's why I say use this ABC method only if you choose to believe that the method that the solution or product that you are proposing at this point in time is the best ones. Okay, because this is not just about like overcoming objections and just closing a case. It's really about the client's best interest, right? So basically, that's all in all. It's just a short video, right? And hopefully you find this helpful, right? So to sum it up, this entire video in 3 steps, all right, to overcome policy exclusion. First step, right, is to address underlying emotions. Number 2 is to visualize the situation for them, right? And number 3 is to close and then reassure them as well, right? And just one like point that I'll just add in and share over here also, which is the objective of a sales appointment or objective of appointment, right? It's not necessary to close the case or close the client or close the policy. The objective of any sales appointment is to really help the prospect make an informed decision, and that informed decision could be one that doesn't involve buying from you, right? So I repeat, right? The sales or sales appointment, right, is about helping the client or the prospect make an informed decision, and the informed decision need not involve buying from you, right? It could be, on the other hand, say that, it's okay, I don't want this, right? And as long as you help them to make an informed decision and they make a decision, right, I think you've done your job, right? Very, very well. And I think more importantly, it's, it removes the stress, right? Because you're really just genuinely helping them to make an informed decision. Okay, so that being said, I hope this really serves you. Let me know if this is helpful for you in the comments here below, right? And if you really like it, please do like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay awesome, stay woke, right? You're doing an amazing job as an advisor. I know it's not easy, but that's the reason why we are here, because we don't do the easy stuff, right? Okay, so stay amazing, and I'll see you in the next video.